about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. So when I worked a lot over the holidays, and whether anybody had flu, whether they had COVID, whether they had shoulder pain, whether they had stomach upset, arthritis, people kept asking for 800 milligrams ibuprofen. Now, there's ibuprofen over the counter. They're usually 200 milligrams a tablet, and they're that small for a reason, because there's health risks with the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories, the NSAIDs. But one of the most widely requested medicines online, because you can't request Xanax and pain pills online, and some places you can't get Viagra, are these high-dose anti-inflammatories. Now, I don't blame people for liking them, because when I had surgery, I had a breast biopsy years ago, and they gave me 800 milligrams Motrin for the pain, and then they also gave me Percocet, which is a Schedule II narcotic. And I noticed that the Percocet just made me loopy. It was kind of psychedelic feeling, but what really helped me with the pain was the 800 milligrams ibuprofen. And that 800 milligrams ibuprofen was also my go-to when I had a hysterectomy. I have a hysterectomy. The pain pill that I got the day of the surgery, but the next day I just took one ibuprofen, 800 milligrams, and I was fine. I was back to work. That was after hysterectomy. Yeah, a sit-down job, but still. So many people have, looked at these anti-inflammatories as, not only can they lower a fever, they can lower inflammation, but they can help with pain. The problem, though, is people are forgetting what happened in the early 2000s. One of the reasons why the narcotic overprescribing skyrocketed is because we had our baby boomers start to age and getting into the, by the early 2000s, they were already starting to get into middle age and senior and become in that age group. And we were frying their kidneys, giving them so many anti-inflammatories in high doses. We were affecting their stomach lining. It was affecting their hearts. And the kidney doctors and the cardiologists are like, will you stop it with the Motrin? Will you stop it with the ibuprofen and the naproxen? You're gonna hurt them. It's really messing with their kidneys and hearts. So then doctors didn't know what to do with patients who were in pain, so they gave them pain medication, which was attached to Tylenol. So they thought, well, that might be safer if they're having kidney issues or heart issues. And so one of the reasons we had our narcotic issue was, yes, we had drugs coming across the border. We have, countries trying to tap in on the American market, but also for those, dentists, family doctors, internists who were trying to, which, by the way, they were also threatened with not only malpractice, but jail time. There was a legal professor saying if a doctor does not manage somebody's pain, they should also be tried criminally and prosecuted criminally for that. So medical providers are like, look, I just want the person not in pain, and I don't want to do harm, messing with their kidneys and heart and all that. So I'll handle their pain. And unfortunately, yes, prescriptions did go up in the early 2000s. So now we have patients not able to get pain medication because of the dependence and the tolerance issues and the addictiveness of it. So they're going back to the anti-inflammatories. And so doctors and specialists are kind of reminding everybody that's not safe. So according to Miriam Joza, an anesthesiologist at UNC Health in North Carolina, she said these anti-inflammatories, these non-steroidal anti-inflammatories produce chemicals called prostaglandins. They're involved in inflammation. They don't produce them. They're anti-prostaglandin. They reduce the prostaglandins. And so prostaglandins are involved in inflammation. And so they say when you use these medications, they could lead to high blood pressure, heart attack, stroke, fluid retention, salt retention, and that extra volume can put stress on the heart, raise blood pressure. So your ibuprofen, your naproxen, your aspirin, diclofenac, indomethacin, Siloxib, even the COX-2 inhibitors, these are things that could cause spikes in blood pressure. Mobic was taken off the market. Well, no, not Mobic. Vioxx. Yeah, it was Merck's Vioxx. And I didn't like using it because I noticed my patient's blood pressure would go up with it. And it was a COX-2 inhibitor. It was an anti-inflammatory that wasn't supposed to have the same side effects as the non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And I remember the rep came in upset that I wasn't writing Vioxx. And I'm like, I can't because it's raising my patient's blood pressure. I don't want to use it. And then eventually Vioxx gets taken off the market. Mobic is still on the market in Celebrex, but there's still that potential. They say ibuprofen in the randomized trials caused the biggest spikes of blood pressure, followed by naproxen and then the celecoxib. So this is looking at the cardiovascular risk. Diclofenac also is a big one. The diclofenac we use a lot in the orthopedic settings. And again, it's a very powerful anti-inflammatory, but what could affect your heart risk and the preload and afterload of the heart can also affect stroke risk, could also affect your kidneys. And not to mention, these could affect your stomach lining. So right now we have the pendulum swinging back. Now that it's nearly impossible to get pain control through narcotics and other things, people are going back to the anti-inflammatories. Plus, they're over the counter. And so we need to caution people that these things are not safe. And after a few days of use, if you haven't been under the supervision of a medical provider, you need to be. And I'm having patients call for 30 tablets of ibuprofen 800. And I'm like, why? Did you just have surgery? Like, no, I have menstrual cramps. And I get that. Menstrual cramps are bad. But if you're taking 30 tablets of an 800 milligram and you could take it up to 3 times a day, in 10 days, what are you doing to your liver, kidneys, heart risk? So we need pharmaceutical companies to help us come up with better ways to manage pain. But many pharmaceutical companies are reluctant because we just spanked them in the courts by suing them for the narcotic issues and the narcotic dependence and the overdoses. So many pharmaceutical companies got sued because they produced a pain medication that might have been abused down the line. And so many pharmaceutical companies are like, you know what? We're just out of pain. Just don't come to us. We're not going to be making new pain drugs. So people are going back to the over-the-counter anti-inflammatories. Be careful. They come with risks. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to you all for tuning in, and big thanks to Daniel, our producer, who is amazing. And we really, really appreciate you guys listening to us. We are going into our hold on a second. We started radio in 2009. We're in the year 2026, so this is our 17th year in radio. Incredible, incredible. So thank you all for being there. Yeah, we're going to celebrate our radio birthday soon. It took me a while to do the math. You know, it's interesting. Math for me was a breeze. I was strongest in math. I got nearly perfect on my SAT score in math. I got 1450 on my SATs, but my math score was, I think, a 780. Language and communication was always hard for me. English, reading comprehension, because you got to shut up and listen and read. And I like to talk and reiterate and add to the story. But I was very grateful that I never had to take a remedial class. And I felt bad for those who did. And many of the kids in the 80s when I went to school, they might have had dyslexia. They might have had some auditory processing issue. They might have had a disability. And I'm really, really grateful for there being they called it special ed at the time, but they had classes that would help them get, through the task, learn and be able to catch up. And I'm really, really amazed at how educators were able to manifest such an ability to help students in need. But one thing that I think a lot of colleges and academicians are noticing, and a lot of us patients are noticing, with some younger graduates, are that we wonder if their training is as thorough and as aggressive as our training. Now, I would never want current medical students or college students to go through the trials and tribulations that we had to. I mean, it was really abusive at times. And we've had to really clean up the way we talk to students, the way we respect students. You can't learn being yelled at and having surgical instruments thrown at you and getting stabbed with a needle in your hand. You can't learn that way. But on the other end, we are hearing time and time again that these colleges are getting students that can't read proficiently, that can't do math. And some of these are Ivy League. This article caught my eye. This comes from, let me give credit where credit's due. This is the New York Post. And they said the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill, one of the nation's premier public universities, offers a 3-credit course called One Big Book That's Worth It. I guess students need convincing to actually read a whole book. Why? Because many of these kids have not read a whole book. And so the course guides students slowly and carefully through one extraordinary long book. This is the catalog class description. That is well worth the time and effort. Required text, one inexpensive book that you will never want to sell back. I mean, look at this sales pitch to get these kids to read one book. I mean, all you had to tell me in school was John Steinbeck wrote it, or J.R.R. Tolkien. It was the Lord of the Rings series. I was there, but now Holden Caulfield. I mean, these were Shakespeare. Who did the Iliad and the Odyssey? Homer. I mean, all you had to do was say, "That's what we're reading. I'm there." But really, we have kids that are entering Ivy League schools without ever having read a book. Now, listen, I did the whole Cliff Notes thing. I mean, I read the book. If I didn't feel like I really got everything, I loved Cliff Notes. And I thought Cliff Notes would help me improve my test score. So yeah, I would read the book and I would do the Cliff Notes. But there are some individuals where all they do are Cliff Notes. So we really have a generation of kids now that have not read a whole book cover to cover. We have many kids now that don't play a musical instrument, that don't know a second language, that can't do things for themselves, can't balance a checkbook. And I'm nervous about that. I really am. And so I talked to a lot of professors and I talked to a lot of people about, what are you noticing with the younger generation of students? And one concern that many of them are having is it's understandable for ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act, to provide accommodations for students. If they are partially blind, if they are partially deaf, if they have amputations, there's accommodations because we know they know the material, but they have a physical disability that is preventing them from actually executing the test. So we want to help them. But unfortunately, we're seeing individuals where they never can get the test done in time, or they just don't pass. They just can't learn the material. Well, when you're talking about medicine and somebody needing to do life or death, they need to be able to know the material. And there's a lot of material they need to know. You can't just stop and look something up. I can't tell you how many times looking something up gave the wrong diagnosis. And I'm like, no. They're not thinking about parathyroidism. They're not thinking about a stroke. They're not thinking about, they're going completely off on the wrong tangent. So you can't just go to the computer. You need to be able to think. You need, one thing that I taught medical students is how to think, how to, come up with a differential. Ways to do it, how to compartmentalize. I came up with this column method thing, and I think it worked for a lot of them. You might need, listen, I didn't learn everything. I tried to. It's difficult. School was difficult, and oh my gosh, the more information you learn, the more you forgot. And I mean, it was so much material. And mind you, the medical students have even more material because when I was going to school, there was non-A, non-B hepatitis. And then they started to coin it hepatitis C. But I mean, that was, I mean, we have so many more infectious diseases now. We have so many more. I mean, there's COVID, so obviously there's more information now. But when I'm hearing that many of these individuals just need to take the test over and over again, or they need extra time, or if you're running a code, you don't have an extra 30 minutes of accommodation. You need to be able to run that code. When you're triaging, when you're it's mind-boggling that we are afraid to say what needs to be said. Is you need to have certain qualities to do certain jobs. And as much as we want every single person to be able to do a job, if you can't think quickly and act quickly, you probably can't be a trauma ER doc. If you don't have flexibility and balance and athleticism, you're probably going to struggle being a roofer. If you don't have fine dexterity with your fingers, you'll probably have some trouble being an electrician. And so when are we going to be honest with our younger generation where we look at their gifts, we look at their strengths, and then we guide them into things that they would be successful with? I mean, my feet are size 10. And at my skinniest, I was a size 7. I loved buying in the junior section. So at my skinniest, I was a size 7. So if I said, look, all right, don't fat shame me. I want to be a model. And I want to be in Victoria's Secret. And nowadays it's, oh, you can be whatever you want. We'll work with you. We'll do accommodations. No. If my butt and feet are too big, to be, I'm going to have to be realistic. If I'm not an opera singer, I'm not going to be hired for the opera. And so what's happening is these schools are like, whatever you want to be, we're here for you. We're going to just pay us the tens of thousands of dollars a semester. Whatever you want to be, and then they go and they're applying for the play, or they're doing their tryouts. And they're not getting the job. They're like, no. We need somebody who can be effective and can be successful. So we have to bring back realism. We want to help those who have disabilities, because people with disabilities can still do 99% of what many of us without disabilities can do, and we want to give them the opportunity. But when you have somebody who's failing and not grasping and needs so many accommodations when it's not necessarily a disability, to get through a test, do we just keep pushing them through and bandaging and propping them up and praying that they could barely get through? Or do we say, look, let's look at where your strengths are, and then let's work on that, and then have you get the confidence so that you could actually get a job and get and pass. 1-877 Doc Dolly, don't go away.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems and their solutions. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
in many states, the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts. Due to a cleaner burn, there are less hydrocarbons and particulate matter in your exhaust. This reduces the blockage of your diesel particulate filter. Using Diesel Extreme generates 83% less DPF regeneration. The 6-in-1 Diesel Extreme formula also includes the most concentrated detergent on the market, lubricity enhancer, water demulsifier, rust and corrosion inhibitors, and a fuel stabilizer.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Let's face it, guys, we're living in times where the truth is becoming more suppressed and censorship is increasing at an alarming rate, especially on social media platforms. It's Clyde, and I want to tell you about a safe and secure digital playground we put together just for you. It's aftermath.media. You get access to thousands of Ground Zero archives and podcasts, along with our private social media groups with your basic membership starting at only $7 a month. Each subscription includes tech support, access to the RSS feeds, along with our own chat room and Telegram channel. In addition, the premium membership includes research study groups, webinars, a document and movie library, a live video stream of Ground Zero, a monthly Zoom chat with me, and other bonus content. Be sure to check out our yearly specials as well. Sign up today while you're thinking about it. Sign up at aftermath.media. Again, that's aftermath.media.
We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOCDALI. So they're calling it the super flu. Super flu. Every year there's a new name. Remember flu and COVID? They called it flu-rona. My Sharona. I guess they were calling it flu-rona. I don't know. But this year they're calling it super flu. They say the U.S. is experiencing its highest infection rate in nearly 3 decades, according to flu statistics released by the CDC on Monday. All but 4 states are reporting increased levels of illness. They say New York, the hardest hit, according to New York Post. Apparently, the week of December 26th to January 2nd saw the highest number of flu hospitalizations. The last week of December, the country saw a 33% increase in positive flu tests. They say more than 8% of the trips to the doctor were for sore throats and severe coughs. So those were like the presenting symptoms of really bad throat and cough. That was up last year from 6.7%. They say the number of sick people steadily increased throughout the holiday season. Alarming numbers were even present back in November. The subclade K was responsible for more than half of the U.S. flu cases. But we're not at peak yet. Peak flu season is from December to January. So we still have the peak, and then hopefully things start to quiet down. One thing that I've noticed, which was interesting, was we had a lot of flu B. I love these over-the-counter tests that test for both flu A and flu B, because many times we see flu B later in the year. We're seeing flu B also now. So patients the majority of them are flu A, which is a much more common strain, but seeing that flu B is also being rampant is interesting, and it does suggest a more severe season. U.S. isn't the only one affected. Obviously, Canada, UK, Japan, they've seen thousands upon thousands of cases of hospitalizations, including children. Hospitalizations are at their highest since 2010. Of course, people are more concerned that their numbers are getting worse. And so, 48 million adults have gotten a flu shot this year. This is down from 61 million back in the 2019-2020 flu season. Now, they look at the 2019-2020 flu season because things changed during COVID. So we didn't have COVID. We did literally have COVID circulating, but it wasn't identified and talked about until late December, early January of the 2019-2020 season. So the 2019-2020 flu season saw probably record numbers of individuals getting their flu shot in the fall, because you usually get your flu shot in the September, October of that flu season. So we weren't even talking about COVID, even though I believe it was leaked in August of 2019 and then started making its way to America because we were getting people negative for flu, but sick with flu-like symptoms and pneumonia by November of 2019. So looking at that number, I agree with, because after COVID hit, we saw flu go down. And the reason why flu numbers went down is because COVID competed, and it was a much better competitor for our respiratory cells than flu. We still had flu, but COVID took such front stage that many individuals were either sick or they were more worried about COVID, or then with the vaccine mandate said to hell with that. So the numbers became very skewed in the post-COVID era. So if you look back to 2019 and 2010 as 61 million people and now 48 million, that to me is still a good number of adults getting the shot, considering people became very anti-vaccine after it got politicized with the mandate. And the mandate of COVID should have never happened. The COVID vaccine, it should have been by choice and doctor recommended, not you lose your job. It was horrible what they did. So every time somebody tests positive for flu, I ask, did you get the flu shot this year? And a good number of them did. So I'm concerned that if the flu shot is not being as efficacious, you're going to have fewer people want to get it. However, there's benefit to it because it mitigates severe illness, and flu can be severe. People always ask, when does flu hospitalize you and when doesn't it? Well, it depends if your body can withstand the assault that those flu viruses are doing on your body. If you end up filling up with fluid in your lungs, like some people did with COVID, and some people can do with flu, or they end up getting a severe pneumonia, you're going to end up in the hospital. If flu affects your heart, if it causes stroke risk, if it affects other body parts, then they don't function well, you're going to end up in the hospital. So when do you know if you need to go to the hospital or not? Well, basic flu symptoms can be sore throat, cough, body aches, fatigue. Usually flu comes with a high fever. But interestingly, we're not seeing much of a high fever with this flu. Now, is it because of the strain, or is it because of our body's ability to fight? Maybe we're not being able to mount such a high fever response. Now, some people, though, are getting high fevers. So don't let a low fever fool you and think it's mild and you're good and you're in the clear, because we're not seeing as many high fevers. But if you're having difficulty breathing, if your lungs are restricted, if you're having chest pain, if you're dizzy, if you don't feel right, you need to get seen. So one concern I have with the rise in hospitalizations is many people who are getting diagnosed with flu are doing it online and remotely. So they're calling up a telemedicine provider, and thank God we have telemedicine companies that are able to provide treatment, because many people can't go to the doctor, or they don't have money to go, or the Obamacare plan sucks, or the doctor closed up because of Obamacare. Yeah, I had to put that in there because Obamacare really ruined it for a lot of us. But so they're calling up the telemedicine company saying, I have the flu. Now, most doctors, do want to see some verification, because we're starting to run low on flu medication like Tamiflu. There's also Zofluza, which is brand name, works really well, nicely. It's a one-day dose, but it's not brand name. It's not generic. So Tamiflu is a little cheaper because it does come generic. But people, they'll test positive at home. They go, I have flu. Give me the anti-flu medicine. Now, what I always remind them is I say, look, before telemedicine, we would examine your heart, lungs, and make sure you weren't having complications of flu. Still do that. Like what? You want me to go to a doctor? I'm like, well, you still should be evaluated. We could treat you remotely, but has anybody examined your lungs? You're telling me that you're having some difficulty breathing. Do we know what your pulse ox is? Do we know if you have a pneumonia right now? And so one concern I have is I don't think a lot of people many people I think are getting sicker at home and not getting checked out. After COVID, people thought that, well, I could just be at home and just do everything remotely. But they're missing a lot of the art of medicine. And so if at all you're not feeling right, I would still recommend, how I look at telemedicine is we're here to help jumpstart something, but we're not here to replace your in-person visit. So if I'm diagnosing you with flu or COVID, still get yourself checked out because we want to make sure you're not getting complications. And so it's unfortunately, I think many people are just staying home until they just can't take it anymore. And it's interesting because they'll call a telemedicine company saying, I can't breathe. And so as a telemedicine doctor, I say, do you want me to call you an ambulance? And they're like, no, just I can't breathe. So what do I do? I'm like, well, you need an exam. You need us to figure out why you can't breathe. Is it your heart? Is it an abnormal rhythm? Is there fluid in the lungs? Is there pneumonia? What, did you drop a lung? Is it a pneumothorax? So I can't treat you for not being able to breathe if I don't know why you're not breathing. You need to see a medical provider. So, kids aren't getting flu vaccines as often as they did. They say vaccinations have decreased by 11% from the 2020 flu season. They said 42% of kids got the flu shot. That's still more than I expected. So, but a lot of pediatricians are recommending the flu shot when they get their other vaccines. But even if the vaccine is less effective, it still provides protection. But watch out for those symptoms and please get yourself checked out. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So should the U.S. annex Greenland? Yes or no? Should we get Greenland? 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So when we first heard about this, I was like, well, wait a second here. What? Really? Greenland is available? I was like, really? It's available? And when I heard Trump was looking at that, I was thinking to myself, okay, well, it must be, rich in minerals and resources, underutilized. He's a developer. There might be some method to the madness. And at first I thought, is he kind of joking? Is he? But I know he doesn't joke. I know he's, half serious with everything he says. And I was like, but, is that really a possibility? From a military strategic site, Greenland, for those of us who played Risk as kids, when you got to move your little troops into Greenland, now you had easy access, because of the Arctic. Greenland was pretty strategic. Country to have as a kid. So I completely understand why, the U.S. would want it. But should they, move forward to access it and annex it? Now, when you look in the media, they make it sound like Trump is going to use military force and is going to, like a dictator, go in and seize and take control. That's not what we initially heard earlier this year, last year of Trump's year back into office, first year back into office. He had said that if Greenlanders are going to benefit and they're going to make money and the U.S. offers them, let's say the U.S. offers every Greenlander $1 million to now be a part of an American territory. Is that's not violent. That's buying your country, buying the people of that country. And so I know the media is making it sound like that Trump is going to be very vicious about it and all that, but I think he really is looking towards negotiating to annex that. And the more I see what Trump is doing in this administration in terms of trying to make moves that are more permanent, because I think it really, really bothered him that so much of what he did got erased and got reversed when Biden came in. And he didn't even auto pen. I mean, he actually signed the executive orders, but the wall started to be taken down. So I think what Trump wants to do is have things that are more permanent. You know, what can the new president not erase? Well, if you have retirement accounts or Roth IRAs for every child that Trump put the money in, to every child born during his term, that's going to be really hard for a new president to erase, because those parents are not going to want that money to go away. And it's a one-time gift, so that's there for the life of that child. Well, that's going to be long-lasting. Gulf of America, that still could be changed, but at least now the maps are a little different, and people are reminded that he did that, quite at the Gulf of America. But with Greenland, if America did get Greenland, that would be huge for America. I wouldn't support it if Greenlanders were unhappy. But if Greenlanders are happy and love the deal that they are getting and everybody benefits, then I'm fascinated to see what the deal would be. And, you know, Trump is about development. He's about working deals and, you know, building. And so it'll be very interesting. So according to CNN, Greenland is a resource-rich island, 836,000 square miles or 2.16 million square kilometers. And it's a former, because people are like, why is Denmark involved? Well, it's a former Danish colony, but it's an autonomous territory of Denmark. And it's probably the least densely populated country. It's remote. They say it's 56,000 residents. That's it. That's, I think, all they have. 56,000 people travel by boat, helicopter, and plane between its towns. And it's along the island's western coast. Nuuk is the capital city. Beautiful. I mean, coastline, mountains. I mean, I've flown over Greenland, but I've never stopped there. I want to. But there's outside of the towns, it's wilderness. 81% of the land is under ice. 90% of its population is of Inuit origin. And the territory's economy is revolved around fishing, according to CNN. So its strategic geopolitical position, sitting between the U.S. and Europe, astride the so-called GIUK gap, a maritime passage between Greenland, Iceland, and the UK that links the Arctic to the Atlantic Ocean. I mean, it's a beautiful country, but it has natural resources, oil, gas, rare earth minerals. And now that China is trying to exert its dominance as it relates to, you know, the rare earth minerals, etc., this is, no wonder, Greenland's trove of resources and minerals could be very enticing. And many people are concerned about global warming. They think as Greenland starts to thaw, there'll be easier ways to access as that Arctic ice melts to be able to get more of the resources and develop more land. And so it's interesting because it's Trump is kind of, they say, downplaying the mineral aspect of it. I mean, I can see how enticing that is. It's more for national security, he says. And I think Greenland's national security, obviously, that definitely trumps, so many other benefits of that. But, it's interesting because you have 56,000 residents who are like, we're fine, leave us alone. You have European countries speaking out, saying, Trump, leave it alone. All right, but what if Trump does come up with a deal? What if he makes an offer? I don't want him seizing it, without, militarily. That's not ours to seize. But I don't think that's his plan. I think he wants Greenland happy that they're a part of America. And if they're, I mean, I can't promise we can't promise a good healthcare system because the healthcare system's still Obamacare. But if he is able to offer the 56,000 people something that they, an offer they can't refuse, that they are excited about, and they're like, look, we're autonomous, we like being autonomous, but, would rather be an autonomous territory under America than an autonomous territory under Denmark, this could actually happen. Now, many people have been told Greenland is not for sale, it's not for sale, but he may actually come up with offers. Now, Greenlanders, from what we understand, those that are getting interviewed, do not appear to be too happy with that. Greenland was incorporated into Denmark, I believe, in 1953. This was after decolonization swept the globe after World War II. CNN says in 1979 it was granted home rule. In 2009, it achieved self-government, but its foreign, security, defense, and monetary policy are still controlled by Denmark. So during recent election campaigns, Greenland's politicians have promised to take steps toward independence, but they don't necessarily have a concrete timeline. Not all Greenlanders want independence from Denmark. Few want to trade Danish for U.S. leadership, but it appears that they still do rely on Denmark. So if America can make it sound like what we offer is more than what Denmark offers, I mean, this could be possible. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY, don't go away. Hi guys, Dr. Dahlia here. Addictions can sneak up on us and come in many forms, whether it's drugs, alcohol, sex, video games, porn, or something less obvious such as food, internet, or shopping. Addiction can seem innocent at first and then evolve into an insurmountable evil. In our book, Addiction Basics, Caitlin Kalikas and I dive into the common addictions and provide tips for identifying and preventing these before they sneak in and take over our lives. Addiction Basics can be found on Amazon or my website, drdahlia.com. Check it out.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com. Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799, and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.